And my question, Rodney, is this. It's very simple. Where are my Blacks for Trump folks? Where are you? I can't hear you. You should be on the front line protecting your people. You supported this man. You helped put him in office. You need to hold him accountable for your people. I rest my case. Posse, welcome to the Black Man's Roundtable Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. What's up, Rodney? How you doing, man?
Rodney, Happy New Year, brother. It is
Yes, sir.
great. It is absolutely great to see you. I am looking forward to another year. Again, I'm doing great, man. Hey, my thing for 2026, man, I'm out here in 2026. We flipping tables like Jesus out here, brother.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're going to be doing in 2026. But other than that, Rodney, doing fine, man, doing great. I know you have a great show for us tonight.
Yeah, bro.
And look, congratulations on season 3, brother. This is beginning of season 3 for you.
You're kidding.
Episode number 1.
Oh my God, it was so fast.
Man, absolutely. I'm looking very, very forward to the new season.
Yes, sir.
I know this is going to be look, you had some heavy hitters on in season 2, brother. You had some heavy hitters on, but listen, I know that there are more to come, but look, more than the hitters, it is the great, great conversations and the great depth that you bring in what's going on in the world today, especially, in our community. So look,
absolutely,
I'm looking forward, brother, to flipping these tables over with you like Jesus, bro, in 2026. And so look, Rodney, I'm looking forward to this episode. I know today on this episode, you have a great, outstanding, once again, guest for us today. And I'm looking also forward to your hot topic, which you're going to talk about reparations for white Americans. Yes, I did not make a mistake when I said reparations for white Americans. And also, I'm looking forward to your whole spotlight, where you are going to talk about the 2025, some of the actions that Trump made in 2025 that really, really impacted our community.
Yes,
so, Rodney, without further ado, man, let's get this thing started.
Yes, well, I'm so happy that the Lord blessed me to get over the flu for this episode. Number 1, it's been going all over the place.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to say a happy Founders Day to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority this week. And a special happy birthday to Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend, on his birthday. Man,
absolutely. But look, Rodney, I got to get my Zeta sisters in there. Okay.
Yeah. You're right.
Well, this is of course airs on Thursday, and tomorrow, which will be Friday, January 16th,
good show,
is my constitutionally bound sisters of sorors of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Congratulations to all of the Divine Nine, and and the Zetas are the last one for the month, so that's 5 out of the 9 here in January. So it's been a very busy month for us. So awesome. So absolutely. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. We have one of your sisters on the city council in the city of South Fulton.
Yes, sir.
Well, listen, it's my pleasure to bring this brother in. He happens to be a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity that I found out this year. And his name is Darris Rollins. He is the CEO and managing partner of RBM Consulting, LLC, a dynamic consulting firm headquartered right here in Atlanta, Georgia. RBM specializes in transforming business connections into measurable results guided by core value connections, development, advocacy, and attention. He has a strong commitment to economic growth and community empowerment. Darris has built a reputation for strategic leadership and impactful partnerships. His civic engagements run deep in South Fulton, where he previously ran for City Council in District 3 as the newly formed City of South Fulton a few years back. Darris has served on the Fulton County Restorative Justice Board, demonstrating his dedication to restorative practices and community well-being. He is also led as president of the Camp Creek Business Association, fostering collaboration among local businesses. In addition to that, he's contributed to shaping economic policy as a member of the South Fulton Downtown Development Authority. That's the seat of South Fulton. Excuse me. Education and workforce development are central to his mission, reflected in his role as chair of the local board of directors for the Atlanta Technical College. I didn't know that until recently. Through both professional and volunteer efforts, Darris champions initiatives that create lasting value beyond profit. His leadership embodies a vision where business success and community advancement go hand in hand. Welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Brothers, how are y'all doing this evening?
Yo, man, we're doing great.
Absolutely great, brothers. Scratching and surviving, as I say.
I'm going to take one small quick point of privilege as you were running down anniversaries and birthdays. My birthday is Sunday.
Uh-oh. Coming up.
This
Okay.
Sunday.
All right. Well, mine is Friday, tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good. Happy upcoming birthday.
You too, bro.
Same to both of you guys.
So listen, man, Darris, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where'd you grow up? What kind of education have you pursued? And what led you to the field that you're in now?
Wow. Again, thank you, brothers, for this evening. I love watching your show. This is a very humbling and privileged experience I'm going to go through. So again, my name is Darris Rollins. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. You can tell by the way I pronounce it, Louisville.
There you go.
And grew up in Louisville, graduated high school years ago, joined the United States Marine Corps. I am a Marine Corps veteran. Did my time, went home to Kentucky for a little while, and was talking to a young lady I dated in high school who came down here to go to Spelman. So the quick version is I followed her down here.
All right.
So we've been married 33 years.
All right.
3 kids you can see on the wall behind me.
All right.
2 grandkids. Came down here and started working in technology, kind of a continuation of my field from the military.
Okay.
I always wanted to complete my education. So I'm going to take you back.
Cool.
I started attending college at a school on Stewart Avenue, Atlanta Junior College.
Okay.
At the time, which is now Atlanta Metropolitan State. Did that for years. I would get off of work and go to school from 6 to 8, 6 to 10, Saturdays from 8 to 2. Was getting burned out and decided to transfer to Clark Atlanta University, where I completed my education with a bachelor's degree in political science. Then went on to start my professional career and then go matriculate and get my master's degree. I've been a resident of South Fulton for over 33 years. We moved over here and nothing was on Camp Creek. It was a 2-lane road.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so I could talk about that forever, but to watch the growth and development has just been great around here.
Yeah.
So I'm not just South Fulton is my home. I'm not just a resident, but I'm part of the community story, is what I like to say.
So now you have been involved in several activities relative to community and economic development. Give me an idea of some of the biggest challenges that you have seen in our community trying to benefit from this economic climate.
I think evangelizing the message has been one of the things, is to get to leaders and the community about what we can do. For example, since we're here, in South Fulton, we're still a young city. We're still going through growth pains, but I think we're on the right trajectory. You mentioned earlier about my time with the Atlanta Technical College. And when I talk about technical adult education and just education in general, I had a good friend of mine say a while back, I heard him say, we have to focus on where the town meets the gown. In other words, where those in the community drive policy, push procedure, can meet with those in the education community and grow. That's where your business incubators come from. That's where you get access to funding. I'm a big proponent of local banks. People often say, well, why can't we do what we see in other places? Well, a lot of the other places that people talk about, you know what they are. They've got community banks, and we just need to focus on the community and community business and entrepreneurship, and we'll be fine.
Gotcha. So, based upon your involvement in the region, what has politics played a role in this area of economic development in a positive way?
The positive way, and again, since we're sitting in South Fulton, and my feelings about Fulton, Fulton, the positive way is the fact that we were able to become a city, take control of our finances, and represent ourselves I think this year we passed about a $425 million budget. A lot can be done with that. One of the positive things people probably don't recognize, I did a little bit of research, for snorts and giggles a while back. I looked at every state in the union, and if you were to plant the city of South Fulton in every state in the union with population and even you foster in the economics, and right about half, if not a little over half the states in the union, we would be a top 5 city. In the majority of states in the union, we'd be top 10. But to say that
Mm-hmm.
we would be in top 5, we just simply need to act like it. We
Mm.
just need to conduct ourselves in that way. And again, we will be fine. So I'm all for removing roadblocks, um, attracting good business that makes sense. And I want to talk more about makes sense real quick. I
Go
moved to
take your
Atlanta.
time. Take your time.
I moved to Atlanta in 1987. And I
Okay.
remember the gentleman I was working with, at a company, he would always talk about, well, North Fulton this, North Fulton that. And I just moved here and I'd say, hey, is North Fulton County different from where I live and what I think is South Fulton County? Are
Mm-hmm.
there two separate counties? I mean, when the police car drives down the street, does it say North Fulton? And he would say, oh, no, no, it's the same county. Then I begin to research and understand Milton and South Fulton and North Fulton. And I begin to understand, okay, there's a natural Mason-Dixon line mentally and physically, which you could say is either I-20 or the Chattahoochee River. And you could say the same thing about City of Atlanta. You could say the same thing about South Fulton. And what I mean by that, remember I moved here when there was nothing on Camp Creek Parkway. And I
Right.
remember when Camp Creek was being developed, one of the conversation was, what would the corridor look like? Would it
Mm.
align with the Cascade? Would it
Mm-hmm.
align with an Old National? So when I
Mm.
talk about bringing businesses that make sense, the business on Cascade may not be the business for Old National.
Good
The
point.
business at Sandtown Pub may not be the business for Red Oak.
Got it.
The unique thing about our city and what I see in economic development, we have economic corridors.
Correct.
You mentioned I'm on the City of South Fulton Downtown Development Authority, and one of the first questions I get is, "Where's downtown?" Well,
Right.
we have economic corridors, is the way I describe it. I have my opinion on where I think the natural downtown is, where it should be.
Well, talk to
Um,
us. Tell us.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the biggest revenue generators historically, even before we were a city, was on National Highway. It is
Right.
what it is. It's generated a tremendous amount of money. And you got to remember, even when we talk about the development of Camp Creek, you remember the Red Lobster that used to be on Old National is Red Lobster that's on Camp Creek, and it's still one of the highest revenue producing Red Lobsters
Okay.
in the company.
Okay.
Um, so and so like that. So when you plant something like that here, along back when it was built, and we had a Johnny Carino's, a Cross Plus World Mark, Barnes and Noble's bookstore. Again, we just need to
Right.
foster positivity, and you'll hear me say over and over again, evangelize that message where um, the revenue and building makes sense. But again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. We have economic corridors within every district of the city of South Fulton, and each is capable of raising its revenue in the corridor to the best of what that corridor is, how you
Gotcha.
define what it is.
Gotcha. Now, a lot of that has to do with the surrounding neighborhoods, correct?
Absolutely. There are. I'll go back to the conversation I had with the gentleman I used to work with, and how he would complain about his taxes. He would always tell me I pay the highest taxes in the region.
Right.
And again, just looking at face value, I would say, "Are you sure about that?" Because if Fulton County is paying the same taxes, but the city of Atlanta, right off Cascade Road, right near where I go to church, is paying city taxes and your same county taxes. Are you sure yours is the highest? True to form, a few months later, the AJC did a story on some of the highest taxes in the city, and the area I just mentioned was amongst them. Also,
Okay.
there was a story years ago about how developers would put bankers, developers, business people in a van. They did it here in South Fulton
That's correct.
and
Right.
rode them around the area. There
Right.
are multi-million-dollar houses
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
around here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to understand what's unique about what diversity, financial diversity looks like in our area. People
Right.
always say, and Rodney, you guys have heard this, we want a Trader Joe's, or we want
Mm.
a whatever, fine dining.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use Trader Joe's by example because I've reached out to them several times. And they base where they put their businesses on certain factors within the community,
Right.
some of which would be um, the income, of course,
Yes.
and education. So when you talk about financial diversity within the South Fulton, some of the conversations you have to have with businesses like that is to say, let's look at your model and make your model fit what's here.
Mm.
Because where you see income, you also have to look at what I say is one of our strengths, our retirement community.
Right.
One of the things I looked at when I moved south, the number of retired educators, professors, uh,
Right.
government employees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of Serenbe was built on the retirement model for the airline industry. So when you
Exactly.
look at a South Fulton proper and say, look at all the educators, government officials, and the income that they sustain and the life they live, that's why you come here.
Right.
That's why you build here. We shouldn't have to leave the area to thrive. We can do it right here. So it's just a conversation with the right people about the model.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some petitions recently being floated on Nextdoor to try to get a Trader Joe's here. Does that work?
It can. You've got to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I say when you look at these petitions, you've got to let people understand the Trader Joe's that you do have here. And what
Mm.
I mean by the Trader Joe's that you do have, if you can show the data of the orders that this community places within Amazon,
Mm.
and we could have a whole nother show about the Amazon warehouses around here. But the same stuff that you're buying at a lot of these warehouses, uh, even at the brick and mortar, it's the same manufacturer, it's the same stuff. So if you
Ah.
could show, hey, we spend X number of millions per year just on mail delivery with Amazon, what do you think we would do with a brick and mortar? We would
Right.
do it. We would
Right.
do it, and we could sustain it because we've had good stuff here. Again, just some of the businesses that I mentioned when uh, the Camp Creek the Camp Creek marketplace was originally built. The real reason some of those, like the Barnes and Nobles, I always say, because
Yeah.
I've
It
talked to the
left.
people at Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
Barnes and Nobles, it was doing okay. I went there. I drank
Yeah. I used
coffee
to
and
go there. Yeah.
took my kids up there almost
Yep.
every weekend,
Yep.
and we supported it. But during that year, Barnes and Nobles had closed stores all across the country.
Right.
But one of the things that factored into that one closing is they knew if they closed that one, we would drive to Cobb Parkway. If they
Oh,
closed Cobb, you can't say they would drive here.
here.
So we've got
Gotcha.
to show the numbers that we support.
Right.
And maybe whatever the square footage was of that store may not necessarily be the square footage here. Another
I see
prime
what you're
example
saying.
of that,
Yeah.
when the Publix was built off of 92, it looked slightly different. It was modeled slightly different than some of the other Publix that you see. So sometimes you have to put forth a model that's sustainable, that fits the community,
Good point.
where you can still make the percentage of profit margin that you
Right.
usually get in some of your other stores. And the dollar amount may not look the same, but you're still making a percentage of margin.
Interesting. Well, what feedback do you get from developers who run into not in my neighborhood folks? It seems like no matter what folks do in terms of spending money, and it costs money to even get to the table to talk about zoning approvals or plan approvals, and invariably we have pushback from folks in the neighborhood, regardless of whether it's a good plan or not.
Yeah, you get, as my instructors used to say, the NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Not in
Right.
my backyard.
And the
Yep.
three things you have to be aware of is you talk to a lot of people, and you wouldn't be amazed, but people would be amazed. One of the things you hear a lot of is, I didn't know.
Mm.
When
Hmm.
you come down Camp Creek and I've said this over and over again. When I get off 285 on Camp Creek and head down toward my community, especially during sunset, we look like a forest in a municipality that sits in a forest. It's beautiful. The green space we have is beautiful.
Yes.
And then when you break left on, you could say Fairburn, Enon, Butler, and just drive around this community and see some of the homes, you'll be amazed some of the developers who would just say, I didn't know this was here. Um, one of my favorite lines from Harlem Nights is when Madame Zenobia's got raided, and one of the people said, "How long y'all been living like this? I didn't know, you know, y'all were living like this." So yeah,
Right.
we've got some stuff here. We've
Yeah.
had some wonderful developments, event spaces here, event farmland, green space is crazy. The people that you all know that live here in various professions. So on the developer side, you get an I didn't know, but also on the resident side, yes, you get a lot of not in my backyard. But again, we have to attract businesses that make sense in a way that makes sense. And again, I've traveled and seen some businesses, and my wife and I love Hilton Head, Bluffton, South Carolina, in that area.
Yes.
And
Nice.
there's a couple of restaurants and developments down there that I know would fit perfectly in parts of South Fulton. There's a business down there I think is prime for a Red Oak community. Um, and again, like I said earlier, that may not fit some other part of South Fulton, but it would be great over there. To give you another example, one of the big things you see around the metro area are the new food halls,
Oh
and
yeah. Rodney,
how
you familiar with
businesses.
those, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
He's been to a couple. He's
Ah.
just to give you an example, not as a promotion. One of my favorite restaurants down on Ponce was Eats,
Okay.
that recently closed. But
Okay.
then you look at me and find out now, say, oh, you're about to move over to Lee and White in the West End off the Beltline. Great pivot. Busy
Mm.
Bee is about to be in Centennial Yards where the Gulch was. Great
Mm.
pivot. So see, you can go in the right place where it makes sense.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, what do you see on the horizon for the region, South Fulton County, which is where a lot of our folks live, in terms of development? Because a lot of the concerns about the municipalities are not all in sync about development. We get a lot of complaints about data centers and warehouses, but a lot of cases, they're not even in the city of South Fulton. They're in other cities in the region. So how do you see us coming together in the region to address some of this development?
We have to come together in the region. Everybody knows that politics in the United States now has become tribal. So
Mm,
coming together in the region kind of creates our own little regional tribe. We have to differentiate, and people see this all the time when they watch TV, the city of South Fulton versus the region of South Fulton. So
right.
you are right. Everybody knows that the region of South Fulton and the city of South Fulton proper um, is primed and ready for growth.
Mm-hmm,
Um, North Fulton is about tapped out.
mm-hmm,
Further south has its footprint, and it looks like what it looks like. But if we don't come together as a region, if the corridor doesn't come together,
mm-hmm,
East Point, College Park, South Fulton, Fairburn, all the way down,
mm-hmm.
you're going to see more of some of the structures that you see coming that people don't like. And you mentioned data centers. You brought it up. We got to be careful with that because the state is about to offer tax incentives
Oh,
on
jeez.
data centers. So if we don't come together as a region, the state of Georgia just might, bogart and we'll just become that spot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm also one of the things I don't know if you mentioned it or not. I sit on the Georgia Economic Development Authority and the International Economic
Oh,
Development Authority.
didn't know
So
that.
yeah, that's just this year in the JETA conference, we realized that Virginia right now has the highest number of data centers, but Georgia's right behind it, and they're making
Wow.
it easier to come in.
Yeah,
Texas is big.
right.
Texas is a different animal. They've got their own power grid, so some advantages and disadvantages to that. But if we don't if we're not careful, we will surpass Virginia uh, with the largest number of data centers. Now, I understand the pros and cons. There's a data center being built around the corner from me that looks like a prison,
Mm.
but it sits in Union City.
Right, exactly. So I was talking about the
Yeah, so
boundaries are
so
so close. Yeah.
yeah, so and a lot of people don't understand that and realize that. Um, I understand where some would say, well, let's look at the revenue that a data center attracts. But one of the things I found out in that conference is even with the data centers that are being built in the South Fulton region, they may not have attracted all the revenue and money that they could for what was being built. So there
Oh.
might have been some money left on the table for that. So if they're going to come, we need to make sure that we're getting the proper amount of money for those things. But if they're going to come, we need to also, as everybody knows, watch how it affects the environment. I was watching a show
Mm.
a while back, and a gentleman that I know, he and I had a conversation, and he shared something that I shared with him on a previous show, where I'm not so concerned about. I am concerned about the data centers and where they are now, but where will we be in 5, 10 years?
Right.
Um, you guys remember my first phone was a bag phone, then I went to a flip phone, and now I've got a smartphone that has as much computing power as my first desktop computer. So I say that to say, with the data centers that are being built to power AI technology, what's that
Mm-hmm.
going to look like in 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to have to consolidate,
Mm.
or are they going to downsize, and we're left with this prison-sized monstrosity in
Mm.
our community, and nobody knows what do you do with a structure like that?
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, Rodney, young fellow mentioned that he ran for the city council in the city's first forum. Sounds like somebody we could use in government. What do you think, Rodney?
Hey, we get to talk to a lot of elected officials on this platform, Rodney, and I felt like I was talking to or listening to a city councilman, a county commissioner, a state rep, all into one with Darris. And so, yeah, I never, I never kind of let folks know or tell folks, hey, you should do this and you should do that. But because sometimes our roles are, I don't know what's the best role for this brother, but what I can tell you is this right here. The reason I say that is because sometimes it is better to stay a private citizen and do your work the way that you do it, because this brother is also a community activist. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can see it, and so sometimes that kind of muzzle you a little bit once you become an elected official. But however, some people know how to swing that thing, some people know how to balance it much better than others. But anyway, I'm looking forward to whatever Darris Rollins decide to do in his life. But right now, I just think you need to keep the work that he's doing and advocating for the community. Rodney, you guys talked about one of the things I was going to talk about and or ask about, which is the data centers.
Mm-hmm.
I am the followers of the Black Man's Roundtable know that I am very concerned about these structures and what they can be. The potential for them after they are used up or finished the initial purpose of them. And so Darris said it great when he said that there's one right around the street from him that you look at it, you think it's some kind of prison. And so when you look at these things, when you look at the way that they're built, when you look at what you can do, and by the way, Darris, I'm a retired military Army guy as well. I know you're Marine. And so when I look at these buildings, I look at them quite different, and I'm sure Darris does as well. We look at them quite different than a lot of non-military people, because we probably had to clear those kinds of buildings before in the thick of things. But I definitely see some. There are people out there that they are not going to allow for those buildings, those structures to sit there and not
Mm-hmm.
make money.
True.
And so I'm very concerned. I will leave it at that because I don't want to. I just don't want to hash anything. But yeah, I'm very concerned about that. But also, the only other thing that I have is Darris, do you believe, the only one question I have for you, Rodney, you did an outstanding job, by the way. The one thing I have for you is the demographics. Okay. We all know the demographics of South Fulton, and it is different, almost from any place in the state. It is different from almost any place in the country. Do you think that South Fulton can be a model for business development, those kind of things, for not only the state of Georgia, but for communities that almost kind of matches the demographics of Fulton? And I'm don't just mean that by race and culture, but also income and so many other things. I know that there's a pretty nice disposable income in South Fulton. So what do you think about Fulton becoming a model for similar communities throughout the country?
It absolutely can, and I was just looking at some of the notes I've been taking since we've been talking. I think if we focus on creating business incubators, access to funding, transparent permitting, partnership with banks and schools and local chambers and development authorities, we can absolutely be the model that we can be, without a doubt. I have no doubt in that whatsoever, that we can accomplish that. And that's the trajectory I think we should focus on to do that.
Thank you, sir. Rodney?
All right. Darris, tell us how we can reach you if we interested in hiring your services or your advice.
Well, I can be reached at my Darris.Rollins at rbmconsult.com. Also rbmconsult.com. You can find RBM on LinkedIn. But if you reach out to me in any one of those ways, I can, send my link tree to make sure everybody can get in touch with me. Rodney Butler, thank you for your service. Brother, I hear you loud and clear. I just want to be sure. I know veterans feel a certain way. I didn't have to clear anything, so I want to, be sure we understand that. And Rodney, a little to your point, one of the things I've always known in my political science training, that one of the highest levels of political participation is actually voting.
Yes, sir.
I chaired voter registration, education, and mobilization for the chapter of our fraternity.
Yes, sir.
Higher than that is running for office, and I did do that before. So what I will say to that is, South Fulton's got something to say, and in 2026, you'll probably see me say something also.
We look forward to that announcement, my friend. And any last comments or messages you would like to leave with our audience?
Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for the invite. The time went by quick because it's fun. I wish you well in 26. You did great in years past. Keep watching, keep sharing, keep evangelizing the message of the Black Men's Roundtable.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Don't be a stranger. All right.
That's right.
Thank you, brothers.
Wow.
All right. Right. I am looking very, very forward to this brother and whatever he's going to do. And like I said, he definitely encompasses so many different elected official seats, the way that he speaks.
Yes.
He's municipal, but yet he's county. He even know what's going on in the state. So I am definitely looking forward. But also, if Darris decide that, hey, I am going to stay in this civilian mode of being a private citizen and doing it that way, I think that this brother can make a difference no matter what he does. But I guess the citizens of South Fulton will be will judge that. But yeah, this brother was very informative, and he knows exactly what he's talking about on all levels. And that was I had to just search for. I said, well, I need to ask one question at least. So I'm like, okay, let me just ask this. But yeah, outstanding guest, Rodney.
Good follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I look
Yes,
forward
sir.
to his decision and his announcement soon.
Absolutely. So
Bro,
look, Rodney, look, I know you got a hot
bro.
topic and a whole spotlight that's on fire. And without further ado, Rodney, let's get into this hot topic, brother.
Well, boy, there's so many things going on. It was very hard to zero in on a specific hot topic. But I tell you, the issue of equality, the white supremacy institutions in this country have been dead set against black men and women having equality in this country. And you wonder why. And it's so evident right now in the current administration in the White House. Very evident. So I wanted to tackle this issue because you and I have talked about this. And what really got my goat was the President of the United States wants to justify giving Caucasian American males, reparations. For what? I'm trying to figure out what are you talking about? Reparations for white men? Okay, well, let's dig into it.
Okay.
So I went to Erica L. Green, who is a White House correspondent for the New York Times. And on January 11th, 2026, she did a report on Washington. I'm going to read you a couple of pieces, and then we will understand why I was driven to this particular issue.
Okay.
Reparations for whites in the academic arena. Okay? President Trump said in an interview that he believed civil rights era protections resulted in white people being very badly treated, quote unquote. His strongest indication that the concept of, quote, reverse discrimination, end quote, is driving his aggressive crusade against diversity policies. Sounds to me, Rodney, I mean, maybe I'm missing it, but didn't he have some trouble getting into some colleges?
Yes, sir.
Oh, this may be at the heart of it. Maybe. But speaking to the New York Times on Wednesday, Mr. Trump echoed grievances amplified by Vice President J.D. Vance and other top officials who in recent weeks have urged white men to file federal complaints with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Rodney, what was the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission set up for? Why was it set up? It wasn't for this, was it?
No, sir.
All right. When asked whether protections that began in the 1960s, spurred by the passage of the Civil Rights Act, have resulted in discrimination against white men, Mr. Trump said, quote, he believed a lot of people were very badly treated, end quote. White people, quote, were very badly treated where they did extremely well and that they were not invited to go into a university or college, end quote, he said, an apparent reference to affirmative action in college admissions. Quote, so I would say in that way, I think it was unfair in certain cases, end quote. Now, Rod, DEI, we tackled this a couple of times before. DEI is not just, policies, we're not just dealing with African Americans, okay? Matter of fact, as you and I discussed in the previous episode, white women have been the biggest beneficiaries of DEI in corporate America. Remember?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's break down DEI funding by race. It's a challenge to determine the exact percentage of federal DEI funding allocated to groups of students broken down by race and ethnicity. Why? This is a limited, publicly available data. Very limited. But broadly speaking, a large majority of people within most racial and ethnic groups receive some kind of federal funding, some of which is connected to DEI programs. That includes 81% of Black students, 74% of American Indian, Alaskan Native students, 72% of Hispanics or Latino students, 70% of white students, and 66% of Asian students, according to a 2023 report from the National Center for Education Statistics based upon data from 2019 to 2020 academic year. The Center's data does not indicate whether those grants were explicitly designated for DEI initiatives. For example, Pell Grants, they're based upon need, not DEI specifically. That said, DEI initiatives encompass a broad range of programs that support various underrepresented groups, including first-generation college students and students with disabilities. They also benefit women and veterans. Each of these groups invariably include many white students. So I think they don't understand the definition of DEI. It's not just melanated people.
Exactly.
Clearly not. Okay, so Rodney, this man talks about reparations for, quote, white folks. I don't think people understand what reparations definition is. I'm going to tackle that real quick. Reparation actions, often financial payments, apologies, or other forms of compensation made to repair or atone for past wrongs, injustices, or damages suffered by individuals, groups, or countries, aiming to provide redress and promote justice. Repair. They go beyond simple money, including symbolic gestures like apologies, memorials, or institutional forms to address historical harm. Key aspects of reparations: making amends. Who provides them? It can come from government, organizations, or individuals responsible for the harm. Who receives them? Victims, their descendants, or affected communities who suffer gross human rights violations or atrocities, like Rosewood in Florida, like Greenwood in Tulsa, like Auburn Avenue in Atlanta. I could go on and on.
Yes, sir.
Forms of reparations: material forms, money, property, restitution. Symbolic: apologies, memorials, truth commissions, educational programs. Rehabilitation: restoring victims to good health or condition. Guarantee of non-repetition: reforms to prevent future occurrences. So, my brother, I think the conversation we need to have is there's no such thing as reparations for white Americans. I don't get that. That there's no justification for it. And the big impact that I see in terms of of repair has to do with the institutions that continue to oppress descendants of chattel slavery. I'm talking about our folks, okay? We have to take a look at the institutions that continue to oppress us and keep us down. Slavery by any other name is slavery, my brother. Whether it's economic, whether it's environmental, whether it's social, whether it's political, it still exists as far as I'm concerned. It's Rodney talk. This Rodney.
Yes, sir.
There is no argument within the U.S. political or legal discourse that justifies giving reparations to Caucasian male Americans as a group. The concept of reparations, particularly in the United States, is centered on providing redress to systemic and historic harms committed by the government against specific groups of people, such as descendants of enslaved African Americans or Japanese Americans interned during World War II. Okay? So the next time your president mentions the issue of reparations, bro, read him the riot act. Okay? There's no harm that can be identified. There's no identifiable injury. Okay? And we clearly haven't had a position to do what's called reverse discrimination. We don't have that authority. We don't have that power, bro.
Gotta have power.
So what do you think, man? I don't know. Maybe I was a little off on that, but that was my sentiment.
No, you wasn't off, Rodney. You were spot on as usual. Especially when it comes down to, well, so many things, but especially when it comes down to reparations. You are the subject matter expert, in my opinion. You've walked the walk, you've talked the talk, and you've done the work here locally and even further. So my whole thing is, Rodney, it's that key word repair.
Yeah.
And that is the base word from reparations, is to repair.
Mm-hmm.
Why do our non-melanated brothers and sisters in this country feel that they need to be repaired for something when they are the ones that broke everything?
Hello? Or their ancestors, for
their
sure.
ancestors. Their ancestors, for sure.
Yeah.
Your lineage, your people, your ancestors broke almost everything in this country, and you wanting to be repaired. Now, we know that there is a lot of white privilege going on. You know, Rodney, I've compared this era that we're in. You've heard me compare this era that we're in into or to the kind of the Reconstruction,
right?
You know, era after the Civil War and after slavery, when these newly freed enslaved people made so much progress over such a short period of time, where we had black men in the Senate, in the House, running states.
Yes, sir.
And you were just in bondage, just in chains
Okay.
for a couple of 100 years. And it didn't take any time for black people to I don't know, to bounce back from that. Well, what happened with all of that progress happening so quickly, then, you know, that famous white lash happened. And so it's very similar to what happened to me. It's very reminiscent of after the 1964 Civil Rights Bill passed and the 1965 Voting Rights Bill passed. There was so much, and then the housing, a lot of things happened in the 60s. In the 60s, from the early 60s all the way to 1968, there was so many things that happened that benefited black people in this country. And then all of a sudden you see the wealth gap just really shrink in the 1970s, home ownership and all of that kind of stuff. And white lash was like, wait a minute, hold up, and so now today, with you having, black people, especially black women, in their educational advances, the most educated, group in America, all of those kind of things. And then, some of the things that the brothers are doing as well, don't get me wrong. But so what you have now is you have all of these entitled white people, basically, who are yelling about they need to be repaired for something that didn't even happen when it was your ancestors that broke everything. So I think you're spot on, and I think at this point, Rodney, I think we need to have them to start naming these so-called injustices that they have experienced.
Show me the damage.
Name it. Get on, name it. If you can't name it, then shut up.
Hello.
So no, Rodney, I think you're spot on, brother.
Thank you, bro. There's so much going on right now, Rodney. I didn't know what to focus on. I tried to get the noise out of my head and focus on us, our people. How are we being affected? What's going on that's affecting us?
And Rodney, yes, sir, and I'm glad you said that, because look, I get the emails and the messages on socials and everything else about, hey, why don't you guys cover this? Hey, why don't you guys cover that? And that's great. Keep sending that stuff. But what I want for this audience to understand, and those people who have been following, this is our 4th season of the entire platform, going into the 4th season right now. And of course, your 3rd season for this particular show. And so, but for those who have followed us, for those who have attached themselves to us, they know that we try not to cover every single thing that's going on in the media, right? But you can't, and it's unnecessary. It is there to throw you off. It is there to just get you tired. Look, we hear about the shootings. We hear about we know all of this stuff, right? But however, like Rodney, like you just said, we focus on the things that we feel that is affecting our community the most. And people know that's been following us, our taglines that we have, and that if you are benefiting from our community, no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, okay, we're coming after you. You're going to have to answer some questions, accountability. And of course, Rodney, the new one that we have for 2026, which is that we are going to be out here turning over tables like Jesus. Okay, we're flipping tables. We're flipping tables.
What would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do? I ask people to go to that reference. Google, what is the reference of Jesus flipping tables? And you will understand exactly what we're talking about with that new tagline. And of course, we will always be out in these streets and these streets. So, right, I'm just glad that you reminded people of, hey, we are concerned about our community, and we try to focus, people think that it's easy, trying to narrow down, exactly what we're going to cover. There's so, like you said, Rodney, there's so much going on. We try to get rid of all the noise. We try to get rid of all of the propaganda that's going on your mainstream media. So, Rodney, again, thank you for pointing out that that hey, this is very important what we're talking about right now, and that is these non-melanated brothers and sisters that we have out here screaming about being repaired, but yet we don't see them naming what's the damage, what's broken, how did the system break you for you to be repaired, hence needing reparations.
Excellent question, my brother. I love it. Which is a great segue into the whole spotlight.
Rodney, without further ado, man, let's get into this whole spotlight, which is really about to shine some serious light on a serious topic.
My brother, we could do a whole show on this. We may have to take pieces of it as we go along for the rest of the season. It's that deep. It's that deep. Well, let's talk about 2025 and the impact it had on our community. Major event. Yeah, let's look back, because we can't go forward until we see where we come from.
That's it. Back.
Gotta look back. Major events and policies in 2025 that have drawn concern for their potential disproportionate negative impact on Black men include significant federal workforce changes, high Black unemployment rates, and the specific proposals within Project 2025 related to civil rights, the economy, and the criminal justice system, my brother. This is what we talked about last year. Before the election, we talked about this. In the Griot, by Garen Keith Gaynor on Tuesday, December 23rd, 2025, reported on 10 actions from Trump in 2025 that critically impacted Black Americans. And like I said, we'd be here for a while trying to get into the details on all of them. Right. But I'm gonna talk about the 10, and we can chop up the ones that we have time left.
Got it.
Since returning to the White House, President Trump has stalled progress on racial equity and driven up the Black unemployment rate at a historic low during the Biden administration. Okay? So they love to talk about Biden. Well, our unemployment rate was low during the Biden 4 years. Let's get that on the table. Coming out of COVID.
Facts.
Okay? President Donald Trump took several actions in 2025 that critically impacted Black Americans, seemingly undermining the community's complicated racial history in the United States, as well as the policies used for decades to remedy it. The nearly year-long MAGA agenda has included the banning of DEI, as we just talked about, the reversal of civil rights enforcement, and redistricting campaign that is being legally challenged as a violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, removing our ability to represent ourselves. Number one, as we talked about, an anti-DEI agenda. On the first day in office, the President Trump signed an executive order calling for the end of DEI programs in the public and private sectors, which I question whether he had the authority to do in an executive order, let alone not being in legislation. It marked the beginning of a series of orders aimed at eliminating racial equity initiatives. What did we talk about earlier? They're so afraid of equity, which I don't understand, because it makes America great. That's what makes America great. They're ending racial and wasteful government DEI programs and preferences, quote, unquote, ordering eliminated DEI programs, offices, and staff, including for federal contractors. 2, that was number 1. 2, deploying the military and federal police to Black-led cities. And I believe that those cities did not vote for him. So when you are elected as the President of the United States, your obligation is to service all Americans, whether they voted for you or not. And I do recall, they like to talk about my friend Joe Biden. He went out his way to make sure that those states that had damage from hurricanes and natural disasters, he made sure that they were taken care of, regardless of whether they voted for him or not. That's my memory. Do you remember?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
American cities led by black mayors or with majority of significant black populations saw what no American city has seen in modern history, the deployment of U.S. military troops to their streets under the guise of fighting crime and enforcing immigration laws. Trump has sent thousands of National Guard troops along with a spike in federal law enforcement to Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, Memphis, and New Orleans. The deployment has created fear and tensions between community and law enforcement, some of which have been violent, as we've witnessed recently. Black man Foster was killed by an off-duty DEI officer. And of course, it's good.
Yes.
We send our sympathy to both families
Yes.
and anyone else who's been affected by these policies. 3, black economic, sorry, I went too fast here. Yes, black economy left suffering, okay? Black unemployment rate reached the highest level, 8.3%, since the COVID-19 pandemic as a result of President Trump's economic and domestic policies, leaving millions of black Americans jobless and unable to stay afloat during America's affordability crisis. Well, we were told by the White House that the affordability cry from Democrats was a hoax.
Yep.
Now, all I hear is affordability.
Yep.
They interviewed the state house representatives and state senate leadership, Republican Party. They're all talking about affordability. So it can't be that big a hoax if the Republicans in the state of Georgia are putting together policies to deal with affordability. Am I right, Rodney?
Absolutely, 100%.
All right. What's more, Trump's sporadic trade tariffs have caused the cost of goods to skyrocket, which has had a critical impact on black businesses, which have a higher rate of hiring black workers, according to a report by the Center for American Progress. We're going to be referencing sources, my brother. We're not just pulling this out of our butts. Trump's policies are disproportionately hurting the black middle class and threatens to widen the already persistent racial wealth gap in America. They said by 2030, the average net worth of a black family is going to be zero. Zero. Number 4, dismantling the education department. You know how difficult it was for us to get a decent education post-slavery to Reconstruction and thereafter, if we didn't develop those institutions ourselves with the help of good people. Dismantling the education department. President Trump has made it clear that he would like to see the U.S. Department of Education completely dismantled. Because only the U.S. Congress can legally do so, the Trump administration has critically defunded the Department of Education and terminated a third of its staff, including long-term black federal workers, Rodney. Anyway, trying to keep this within our time frame, because the Trump White House has also overhauled the education department, including historic cuts to funding of Pell Grants, which black students disproportionately rely on to pay for higher education. Now, you mean to tell me when they did this that they didn't know who the recipients were? Come on, Rodney.
You best believe it.
The administration also overhauled the federal student loan system, such as limiting borrowing limits, which could make higher education more expensive and out of reach for black Americans. This is 2025, my brother. We talked about Project 2025 before 2025. Y'all should have listened to the Black Man's Roundtable. Number 5, whitewashing black history. As a part of Trump's executive order ending the so-called racial indoctrination policy of public schools, the Trump administration has used the education department to pressure public schools to sanitize black history as it's taught in the classrooms, threatening to withhold federal funding if they do not comply. Now, here's the kicker, bro. The administration has failed to issue any guidance on what aspects of black history are permissible. So you give me a directive, but you don't give me the how-to. What's the roadmap? What's the guidelines? What's the regulations? Nothing, bro. So it's in limbo. Other actions undermining black history have included scrubbing of black history figures from federal websites. In April, the National Park Service removed and later restored the Underground Railroad and Harriet Tubman sites. In September, the Trump administration moved to remove relics of the U.S. chattel slavery from national park sites, including the 1863 photograph known as, quote, the scourged back, end quote, which shows an escaped enslaved man's bare back marred by raised scars from repeated whippings. Wiping it out, bruh.
Yep.
Now, if we weren't part of this country's history, I could understand that. But we were, a major part. Number 6, I'm trying to get to it. Elimination of TPS for Haitian and African immigrants. What is TPS? It's the temporary protected status.
Yep.
As you know, they're going after the Somali population to do just that. They're going to break up families. They're going to be deporting folks who've been here for 20, 30 years, bro. This is incredible, man. Oh, my God. My blood pressure is going up. The action threatens the status of tens of thousands of immigrants and their families living in the United States. Trump has also issued travel bans on nationals from various African countries and Haiti, citing supposed national security risks. The president's ban on black immigrants from the U.S. also came as he continued to use disparaging rhetoric against them, most recently calling Somali immigrants, quote, garbage, end quote. What country are we in, bro? I'm losing it. I'm losing it. Number 7. Right. Number 7, undermining the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Okay? You know they've been working on this for a number of years now.
Best believe it.
It's like it really took effect and we benefited mostly from it. Okay. By demanding that Texas take the unprecedented action of redrawing its congressional map 5 years in advance of the next U.S. Census, President Trump ignited a brewing battle over voting rights, which has protected black voters from racial discrimination for 60 years. 60 years, Rodney. We haven't arrived. We're fighting the same fights that our elders fought and our ancestors deceased now fought that we can have right now. I'm just flabbergasted. The redistricting efforts have been slammed as a scheme directly intended to undermine the power of black voters. Comes as Trump tries to chart a path for his Republican Party to maintain a majority control of Congress. Rodney, I know you heard this, that the president said at a Republican meeting of the House caucus that if they don't maintain majority, he will be impeached again. So now we understand why the calls are going out to do a mid-decade redistricting. No reapportionment, just redistricting. Okay. Number 8, attacks on black leadership. President Trump has not been shy about using his bully pulpit to verbally assail black Democratic leadership and push out black leaders from critical independent boards. From so far unsuccessful push to fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve, the first black woman to sit on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, to terminating Gwen A. Wilcox, the first black woman to serve on the National Labor Relations Board. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege right here.
Okay.
I know this woman personally. She's a college classmate of mine. She was on my sweetheart card when I pledged Omega. I've known her since then. I've watched the work that she's done as a lawyer for the labor movement in this country. She should have a plaque, a monument for her, a statue down there in Washington for the National Labor Relations Board. And he's trying to remove her without cause. And of course, she challenged it in the court, but you know the situation with the federal bench. I don't have to get into that. She was not successful. Trump has used the Justice Department to file charges against black elected officials like New York Attorney General Letitia James. Another point of personal privilege. I was on staff in the New York State Legislature when she was on staff for Assemblyman Roger Green from Brooklyn. I've watched this system grow and mature and rise in influence and power in the state of New York. She is outstanding public servant. Outstanding. Failed to, despite multiple court attempts. U.S. Rep. LaMonica McKelvey of New Jersey, who continues to fight for her freedom in court over a clash with federal agents who unlawfully arrested Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, whose charge were ultimately dropped. They were trying to get into that facility, the ICE facility, that they were grabbing people off the street. I remember that on the news like it was yesterday.
Yep.
Attack on black leadership across the country, bro. I mean, don't need to have a robe. You got a Klansman in the White House, bro. Number 9, and we're almost there. Historic cuts to healthcare and social services. While this is number 9, health is a very important issue. You talk about it on your show, about the disparity for health for our women, black women. President Trump's signature law, the One Big Beautiful Bill, makes historic cuts to healthcare and social programs that black Americans disproportionately rely on in order to offset the costs of more than $4 trillion in tax cuts that experts say will overwhelmingly benefit wealthy Americans and corporations. $4 trillion. Roughly $1 trillion cuts in Medicaid and Medicare, and $120 billion from SNAP. That was the big issue during the shutdown, was restoring those funds. Oh my God. Health. What's more, Trump's tax and budget bill does not include extensions, as we know, for the Obamacare or Affordable Care Act, subsidies that will cause healthcare premiums to skyrocket in 2026, where we are right now if current negotiations fail. It's in the Senate, correct? It's in the Senate today. They need to pass that and send it to the White House. Period. The last but not least, number 10, bro. Abandoning enforcement of civil rights protections. They want to turn the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission into finding out what white men deserve recompense. Trump's Department of Justice Civil Rights Division has dismissed or terminated many racial discrimination cases it deemed as a weaponization of the federal government under the Biden administration, again, Biden, including some that had already reached agreements with the previous administration. Most recently, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, went out of its way to send a public service announcement to white men to inform them that they may be eligible for compensation for employment discrimination based upon their race and gender. This is despite the fact that white men have a lower unemployment, 3.6%, than the national average of 4.6%, and black unemployment is 8.3%. So, when we talk about reparations and repair, you have to show the damage before you can talk about repair.
Exactly.
There's no damn damage to these people. But what we're doing is we're setting the climate so the world understands that this administration in Washington does not live up to its own laws and its own creed that all men are created equal. That's the problem, bro. They don't want to deal with equity. They don't see us as equal or as humans to the point that we should be living through this period of time with an administration. And my question, Rodney, is this. It's very simple. Where are my Trump, Blacks for Trump folks? Where are you? I can't hear you. You should be on the front line protecting your people. You supported this man. You helped put him in office. You need to hold him accountable for your people. I rest my case.
You know, Rodney, I say, what about the rest of those protected groups for Trump? Where are the Hispanics for Trump? Where are the gay
Somalis
people
for Trump?
Somalis for Trump? Where are you now?
Thank you.
So for all of these protected or different kinds of groups other than the rich white man. So so I think some chickens are coming home to roost.
Yes.
I think that we effed around and found out in 2024. And so the only thing that I'm going to say about 2026 is that you have an opportunity in 2026 to truly understand Project 2025.
Hello.
Rodney, we literally dissected the 10 things in Project 2025. We're talking about almost 1,000-page publication, 923 pages or 36 pages or whatever it is, but almost 1,000-page document. And we pulled out of those over the course of almost an entire season.
That's correct.
Each week, we pulled one of those, principles or things in Project 2025 that we felt that affected our community the most. We did that. People were not listening. We did this in 2024 and in 2025. People were not listening. And now what you have, because we didn't listen in 2024 to what was talked about for Project 2025, now we're in 2026. You have an opportunity to make a difference, to turn back some of this stuff that this cretin has done, this anti-Black president has done in that house that was built by our ancestors. He's tearing that down as well.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
we have to get back and understand some of the damage that has been done. But Rodney, I will say this right here. To all of our non-melanated brothers and sisters, you have talked about, Rodney, that from the blood, sweat, and tears of Black people in this country, of African Americans, everybody benefits from our blood, sweat, and tears. So for you immigrants out there that you have been, I don't know, you have been taught, you have been fooled into looking at African Americans a certain kind of way once you get over here, understand this: you would not be able to even look down on African Americans if African Americans didn't do what our ancestors did in this country for you to even be here to look down on us. So let's remember that. But also, Rodney, I think when you talked about Black history and they're trying to eradicate and erase Black history, I think that one of the reasons that they're trying to do that so adamantly in our public schools, which, by the way, without Black people, there would be no public schools in America. There would be no free lunch in public schools in America without African Americans. But I think one of the things that tee them off a lot is that once we start to teach, even though they may not do it in the schools, but once we as Black men and Black women begin to teach our children Black history, they love it, they absorb it, they embrace it. And I think one of the things that they are upset about is that, check it out, your kids don't know white history, if there's such a thing.
Right.
They don't know, they don't have a clue as what is going on other than the propaganda that they was fed about Christopher Columbus and some other crap about George Washington, or that anti-Black, nasty human being, Abraham Lincoln and all of these people. So, but however, they don't know. If you can talk to just your average, your typical white person, they have no clue about history in this country. Period. The one thing that they do know is that they believe they have been sold a bill of goods, that they have some kind of privilege that they really don't have. It is just made up. You don't have that privilege. And I think that they're starting to see it. And you want to get upset with us when you should be getting upset with your rich white uncle at the top of the pyramid, or so that they think that they are there. But also, Rodney, I think that we should continue as a people. I'm not going to say a race, but as melanated people, because we know race is a made-up construct. We talk about it all the time on here. I think that we should continue to stay out of these streets. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that what it proved, what that young lady, Miss Good, showed, is that, now you got, like I said, you got white people all over the TV, all out in the streets, talking about the injustices that was done to that lady. And guess what? They were total injustices. But you were able to see that the so-called law enforcement, and how they do their jobs, how biased they are, how corrupt they are. But yet you couldn't see that with a whole list of black folks. Sandra Bland. I mean, we could just name them.
Yes, sir.
What did prove what Miss Good has shown us over the past several days is that, you know what, Rodney, those white people, they saw. They saw everything in all of these black people that were killed by police officers. They did so much less. In fact, they was trying to avoid law enforcement, if anything, not run to it like Miss Good, God bless her, but my goodness, And so, but all of a sudden you can see all of the injustices, but you couldn't see it with Sandra Bland. And to compare, I don't take anything away from Miss Good, but to sit there and try to compare what she did in her struggle or whatever with George Floyd, because it's both within the state of Minnesota or Minneapolis, the city, or right around the corner. It's not even comparable. So it's just crazy. And one of the last things I'll say, Rodney, I jotted down here, is that Donald Trump basically said with his own mouth that if he did not get elected, not get elected in 2025 or in 2024 and get inaugurated in 2025, if he did not get elected, that he was going to jail. He knew that he would go to jail. This man has now said that if the Republicans do not win the midterms, keep the House and the Senate, that he will get impeached. So he's already telling them exactly what is going to happen, and he knows that gives so many people who look like him, the non-melanated people, an incentive to go out and vote for him, not on anything policy, not on some kitchen table issues or whatever. I have come to the conclusion that, these kitchen table issues, it is going to get some people up, and because they just thought for some kind of way that green money was only going to affect black people. Okay. And now they are seeing that, I need to probably do something about this, and that they don't care about you. They didn't care about you in 1926. They also don't care about you in 2026. So, our non-melanated folks, let me tell you something. You have a lot to do. I suggest, like I said, Rodney, that we stay out of these streets, continue to stay out of these streets. We see what they want to do with us, okay? They want to shoot us in the face, the heart, and the foot. And so we need to stay out of these streets. And you know what? Our non-melanated people, I'm going to look right in this camera and tell you straight up, it is time for you to peer teach each other.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to do it. I don't care if you watch this program. I don't care if look, I'm not in the business of teaching you anything. We have tried, we have shown, we have done everything that we could as a people to teach you exactly what your own people are doing to you. Peer teach each other. You know what's wrong. You've proven it with Miss Good. You've proven it time and time again that you see what's wrong, but you don't care until, so many of you, of course, I'm not painting the broad brush. We know that we have wonderful allies out there, but it's so few that sometimes it's not even worth talking about. But I'm just telling you straight up that it is time for you all to teach each other, to peer teach each other, because let me tell you something, we're tired. So all of this black fatigue or whatever you talking about you have, well, I tell you what, okay, try being enslaved, try being Jim Crow, try being all this anti-blackness, try going through that, and then talk to us about your black fatigue. If you're black fatigue, you know what you are? You're anti-black.
I just want to see the hands in the back from our non-melanated friends and neighbors that would prefer to switch places with us right now. Okay? And in closing, my brother, on this, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s actual birthday, would like to say that to our audience, the kind of marching that we need to do right now is marching into working with one another, organizing, collaborating. The kind of marching we need to do now is marching our dollars over to Black-owned businesses and away from those businesses that do not hire us and do not support DEI. That's what the kind of marching we need to do in the memory and honor of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And they need to keep his name and his words out of their mouth in the way they've been using it to exploit what he really meant and try to turn it into an anti-DEI, anti-Black message.
Thank you so much for that, Rodney. And I will echo this. You do not have to be Black in order to spend your dollars in the Black community. If you are a true ally, if you are a true ally of us, then you have absolutely no problem. You see who they're targeting.
Yes.
You know who they're targeting. Like I said, Miss Good, you all have, I've seen it. You guys know what is going on. You guys know right from wrong. You know what they're trying to do to us. And at the end of the day, you know those are your relatives. You know that what they care about more than anything is the bottom line and their pockets. So listen, if you are a true ally, don't be afraid to spend your dollars in the Black community, no matter what you look like. Because remember, race is a made up construct. They have fooled you. They have bamboozled you. They have hoodwinked you. They have led you astray, run amok on you to believe, for you to believe that, you know what, you are the same as them. You know that there are relatives that you have that have certain kinds of income or whatever. They never welcome you over to their house. They never have you for Thanksgiving and all this other stuff. So exactly. So you know that it is 2026. Do the right thing. Let's take the country back. Let's take it back. Rodney, hey, look, man, once again, outstanding episode, brother. As always, I am looking forward, brother. I am looking so forward to your third season. Like I said, Rodney, we're gonna flip over some tables like Jesus, man.
Amen.
And you know what? The people need for us to do that. We're going to continue to be unapologetic. We are going to continue to bring it. And Rodney, I know that, you know what, brother, you are an ally to me. You are an ally to this show. You are an ally to our community and to our people. So listen, Rodney, close this thing out, man. Keep up the good work. And like I said, brother, I can't wait for all of these episodes.
Well, I appreciate you having us on the platform and permitting me to be a co-host. I appreciate it, my brother. Bro, catch us on the Black Man's Roundtable, the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney on the second Thursdays of every month at 7 p.m. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, or on YouTube and Facebook. Until then, we see you again. We'll keep rounding them up.
Peace, Rodney.
Peace out.
Hey, family. If you like what you saw, visit our website at blackmansroundtable.com for more information or to check out more content. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.